"Why are you so happy?" I asked her. "Oh, I just came back from Bethesda Naval Hospital in my annual physical," she replied. "The doctor said I had the breasts of a 25-year-old. Well, I asked her, "What did he say about your 50-year-old ass?" "Oh," she replied, "your name didn't come up." Chelsea, my lovely daughter, she was out walking with a couple of her girlfriends when they spotted Newt Gingrich himself about to be run over by a car. They quickly pulled him out of the way and onto the curb. "Well, you saved my life, ladies," said Newt. "As Speaker of the House, I'm a very powerful man here in Washington. What could I do to repay you?" The first girl says, "I want to go to Georgetown." Newt replies, "Consider it done." The second girl says, "I want to go to West Point." Newt replies, "No problem, I'll take care of it." Now he turns to Chelsea. "And what can I do for you, Chelsea?" She says, "I want to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery." Newt says, "Well, that's an odd request for such a young woman." "Well, maybe so," says Chelsea, "but when my daddy finds out I saved your life, he's going to kill me." She is such a scamp. I mean, that really wouldn't happen. I'm not going to kill my own daughter. One night in the middle of nowhere, a traveling salesman car breaks down right by a farmer's house. The salesman knocks on the farmer's door. The farmer answers and says, "Sure, you can spend the night here, but you have to sleep with my 19-year-old son. But only if you promise not to—" "Wait, never mind," interrupts the salesman as he starts back to his car. "I'm in the wrong joke." Newt Gingrich and I were discussing family values. Newt said, "I never slept with my wife before we were married. Did you?" And I replied, "Well, I don't know, Newt. What was her maiden name?" What do a hurricane and a marriage gone bad have in common? They both start off with a lot of sucking and blowing, but in the end, somebody loses a house. Say, did you hear about the scientists that discovered the million-year-old bacteria inside that meteorite from Mars? Oh, it's great to know that somewhere there's a life form older than Bob Dole. Some of the women in Arkansas are so fast, I had to put a governor on them. Two nuns were bicycling down a cobblestone street when the first one said, "Sister Catherine, I don't believe we've ever come this way before." And Sister Catherine replied, "Must be these cobblestones." Well, it seems a woman walked into the pro shop at a country club with tears streaming down her face. The golf pro said, "Oh my God, lady, what happened?" She replied, "I got stung by a bee." Golf pro said, "I'm so sorry. Where did it happen?" She replied, "Between the first and second holes." To which the golf pro answered, "Oh, that's your problem. Your stance is too wide." I've been in love with the same woman for over 20 years, and if Hillary ever finds out, she'll kill me. The worst 3 words you can hear while making love? "Honey, I'm home." You know the difference between a liberal and a puppy? The puppy stops whining once it grows up. Why was Ross Perot's wife glad he didn't get elected? 'Cause if he won, she'd have had to move to a smaller house in a bad neighborhood. You know why Arkansas only holds driver's training classes 3 days a week? The other 2 days, they use the cars for sex education. See, they get in the back seat and they drive to a secluded, never mind. You know Paula Jones' favorite game? Swallow the leader. You know why we didn't stage a White House Christmas pageant last year? Couldn't find 3 wise men or a virgin. Hillary and I were at the opening game of baseball season. A Secret Service agent whispered something in my ear. I looked at him funny, but figured, well, okay, he works for the Secret Service. So I grabbed Hillary by her belt and the scruff of her neck, and I tossed her over the seats and out onto the playing field. The Secret Service agent looked shocked and whispered to me again. I looked at him and said sheepishly, "Oh, first pitch." Other than me, you know the best thing that ever came out of Arkansas? Interstate 55. The Senate held a spelling bee, and the finalists were Dan Quayle, Ted Kennedy, and Bob Packwood. You know who won? Dan Quayle. Yep, he was the only one who knew that harass was one word. What's the difference between a porcupine and a limousine filled with lawyers? On the porcupine, all the pricks are on the outside. Rush Limbaugh and Janet Reno found themselves alone on an elevator. Janet grabbed the stop button and pulled it out, stranding the pair between floors. She stripped off her clothes, threw them on the floor, and ordered, "Rush, make me feel like a real woman." So Rush took off his clothes, threw them on the floor, and ordered, "Iron and fold these." You know why Al Gore abolished coffee breaks for civil servants? Took too long to retrain them. See, in the 10 minutes it took to drink a cup of coffee, they would virtually forget everything that they ever... Okay, moving on. The Secret Service got a real scare the other day when somebody threw a can of beer at me. Fortunately, it was a draft, so I dodged it. I'd like to state categorically that there's absolutely no truth at all to the vicious rumor going around that at my inauguration I had the Marine Band play "Inhale to the Chief." Hey, did you hear about the blind prostitute? Well, you gotta hand it to her. You know how Las Vegas is different from Washington, D.C.? In Vegas, the drunks gamble with their own money. You see, in D.C., they do it with yours. A man walks into a doctor's office. "Doc, you gotta help me. Do something about my voice." "Why, certainly, sir. Take off all your clothes and hop up here on the examination table." "Whoa, never mind. I can see exactly what your problem is. You suffer from penile elongation." "Is it serious?" "Oh, it's a simple operation. We'll just shorten you a foot or so. You'll still have plenty left to live a full, rewarding life." And so he did. About 3 months later, the same guy returned. "Doc, remember that operation you did? I kind of miss, the way I used to be. How about sewing part of that back on?" To which the doctor replied, "No way. A deal's a deal." You see, the doctor's voice had changed because what he had done was he took the severed member and reattached it. Well, I think you can finish the picture for yourself. What's the difference between a tribe of wily pygmies and a girls' track team? Well, one's a bunch of cunning runts. These two explorers were on safari out in the jungle, and they got captured by a tribe of natives who dragged them back to their village and tied them up to a stake. The chief of the tribe came up to one of them, looked him in the eye face to face, and said, "I give you a choice, death or Kiki." Well, the explorer looked around and said, well, "I'll take Kiki." And the chief said, "Okay, Kiki." They untied him, they threw him down on the ground. All the men in the tribe had sex with him, and they beat him to a bloody mess with spiked clubs. The chief went up to the other explorer, looked him in the eye, and said, "I give you a choice, death or Kiki." The other fellow, he said, "Well, are you kidding? I'll take death." The chief replied, "Okay, death. But first, Kiki." It seems there were these two brothers who worked very hard on the farm every day tilling the soil. Now, one day they decided that they needed a vacation, so they went to the big city to live it up for one weekend. They had a great time in the big city, and they were driving home back to the farm on Sunday night when their truck broke down right after the sun had set. They looked around and saw that there was only one farmhouse within walking distance. They left the truck by the side of the road, went up to the farmhouse, and knocked on the front door. The farmer answered the door and said, "Yes, what can I do for you?" The brothers said, "Well, sir, our truck broke down by the side of the road, and it's too dark to try to fix it. We were wondering if maybe you had a place where we could spend the night, and we'll be out of here in the morning." The farmer looked at him and said, "Well, the only room I have is my daughter's bedroom. I suppose you could sleep on the floor, but I don't want any hanky-panky or monkey business in there." Two brothers agreed. They said, "Oh, sir, don't worry. We're gentlemen. We just want to sleep. We'll be out of here when the sun rises." So they're in the daughter's bedroom on the floor with blankets, trying to go to sleep, when the daughter, who was in the full flower of her girlhood, taps one of the brothers on the shoulder and says, "Hey, would you like to roll in the sack with me?" And the brother looks around and says, "Well, sure, why not?" The daughter says, "Now, you wouldn't want to catch anything, and I wouldn't want to get pregnant, so I want you to wear this." She hands him a condom. He puts it on, jumps in the sack, and has a roll in the hay with the lovely daughter. When they're finished, the daughter taps the other brother on the shoulder and says, "Your turn, good looking. But I don't want to get pregnant, and you don't want to catch anything, so wear this." She hands him a condom. He puts it on, jumps in the sack. They roll in the hay. He gets back down on the floor and goes to sleep. Now, early the next morning, they get up with the sun. They fix their truck, and they're on their way. Father never knew anything about it. A couple weeks later, the brothers are out in the field, tilling the soil. One of them turns to the other and says, "Hey, you remember that farmer's daughter a couple of weeks ago?" The other one says, "Boy, do I." And the other one says, "Do you really care if she gets pregnant or not?" And the other one says, "Well, no, not really." "Well then, let's take these damn things off." How do you recognize Al Gore when he's surrounded by Secret